I saw Suicide Squad. Play the fucking intro. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. As always, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for coming back to us here on the channel. So this review is, I want to say, probably about a week and a half too late, but you know what? I have to do it. I have to review this movie. I don't know what it is with the last couple DC comic movies, but man, they've been really divisive, and this one here is probably the most divisive one, maybe the most divisive movie that's come out maybe during my lifetime. The movie, of course, I'm talking about is Suicide Squad, and honestly, you know, this movie came out a few weeks ago, but I got sick the weekend that it came out, and I was out of commission basically all weekend. It was really bad. Then I had to work, so I didn't get to see it right away, but I finally got to see it. My friend and I went to go see it, and honestly, we both enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. We also really enjoyed Civil War. And some people have been comparing this movie to Captain America Civil War, and doing that is almost like comparing a child's finger painting to the roof of the Sistine Chapel. There is no similarities between Civil War and this movie. It's just not. DC, Warner Brothers as a whole, is actively screwing with movies, and I think this is not a good thing. If we learned anything from Batman vs. Superman, is that when you cut chunks out of a movie, and I'm talking about large chunks of story and character development, you lose what a movie is about. And pretty much Suicide Squad is lost. I don't think we're ever going to get a good version of this movie. I hope that there's a long version of this movie that comes out when this comes out on video. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I really hope that happens, because this movie was a total disaster zone. My problems with the movie are as follows, okay? And this is kind of my critique, and I know not everybody's going to agree with this, but my friend and I absolutely hated this movie. We were actually joking with each other throughout the entirety of the film because it was so bad. This is the first movie I've seen in a while where I actually checked out. I checked out of the movie about, I'd want to say about 40 minutes into the film. I basically turned to my friend and I said the exact words. I said, "Tell the concierge I'm checking out," because I could not deal with the garbage that was going on with this movie. First and foremost, you can't get attached to any of the characters that are in this film. Nobody is even close to approachable. Even the one character that I enjoyed the most with Deadshot is Will Smith's character in the film. Even his character is an assassin, and he's a good character. I think his character is the only one that's even somewhat grounded in the movie, because of his daughter and the fact that his daughter is basically his reason for doing what he does. And he cares about him. He has some kind of a family. That's nice. I really like that. Of course, he is also a ruthless killer, so there's that kind of bad aspect of him, but he's kind of in a gray area, which I really liked. Another problem I had to take notes, so I'm cheating. I have to. I'm sorry. There's too many things wrong with this movie. That I found it hard to care about anything that was happening. The movie also tries to set up a lot of characters in this film. And the problem with the movie like this is you really need to push a lot of backstory in a very limited amount of time. And it also seems like, from what I've heard, that a lot of the backstory for some of the main characters was completely edited out from this film. For example, I guess there's a lot more of Harley Quinn and the Joker that we just didn't get in this movie. And what we did get was basically 5-10 minutes of flashbacks showing how they kind of got to where they are. But it's really just a lot of flashes of images, and I didn't find it very entertaining at all, and I also didn't find it to be very informative, but we'll get more into that later. Most of the characters in this film are really bland. I had no attachment to anybody. As I mentioned earlier, Rick Flag, the guy, the Special Forces guy, is such a one-note, bland, stupid character. And he is stupid. He does a lot of stupid things in this film. Again, I'm going to try not to spoil anything for you in this review, but there are decisions that a lot of the characters make in this that are really dumb. For example, one thing I find to be really wild is that there is a character named Cavanaugh that is introduced literally, I think, almost midway through the film. And her introduction is literally her jumping onto a helicopter, and then Rick Flag actually gives the backstory in like 2 sentences. We get like maybe a 60-second flashback of her killing some people, and they just kind of drive the point home. Her husband was killed, and now his spirit is in her sword. And now she kills people, and their spirits are also captured in the sword, and her part literally goes nowhere. I mean, her whole role is literally just, it goes nowhere during the film. Such as another role is like Captain Boomerang, who I found to be very entertaining, but again, his character literally goes nowhere, and he's not even really put to good use in this. There's like one scene where he throws a boomerang, has a camera attached to it for some apparent reason, and that's basically all he does in this film. He delivers a couple funny one-liners, but that's really it. And a lot of the characters felt very vapid, and it's just not very well done in that aspect. Also, you know, the movie, like I said earlier, feels very chopped up. And one example of that is, you know, the pacing of the film is all over the place. The movie had absolutely no urgency to it, and I think that's a problem that even like I want to say even like Batman vs. Superman had in certain parts, where the movie didn't feel like it was moving anywhere. It just kind of felt like it was trotting along. But this one really has that problem. I mean, we are introduced to this group of characters supposed to stop this evil force from doing something, which we'll talk more about later. But they have no urgency to do anything. They kind of just wander around for the remainder of the film and kind of figure out where they're going by happenstance. It's a real mess. I mean, right after there's a big dramatic fight scene, there's a very dramatic scene that's very slow, and then they all go have a drink and talk for like 15 minutes when they are actually supposed to be stopping this unforeseen, like, mystical force. And they just stop off and have a drink for no reason, and it's the dumbest thing. And really, it's just added in there to give these characters more exposition. But the problem is, we're midway through like the action climax of the movie, and they just stop and have a drink out of nowhere, and it's atrocious. It's really, really bad. Funny enough, the only other movie I can think of that really does this, where there's like a big action face-off, and then they just careen into left field and it slows the whole movie down, is actually GoldenEye. And funny enough, I really love that movie, but there's that one scene after they escape from the train in GoldenEye where all of a sudden just Bond and the other chick in that movie just run off to Cuba and go on vacation for a couple days, and it's the dumbest thing. And this movie kind of has that version of it, only this movie it's not very interesting. At least the thing in Cuba and GoldenEye was visually interesting. These guys are they're sitting around drinking, talking about nothing. You do get a little more backstory for Diablo, another character, during that scene. But again, it's so disjointed and out of place. At this point, nobody cares. They just want to see the movie over with. So that was another problem this thing had. As I mentioned earlier, you know, the movie feels very chopped up and re-edited. And one example of that is, you know, we get Harley Quinn's somewhat kind of backstory, and then like 20-something minutes later, we get another flashback where it's her jumping into some kind of vat of acid for whatever reason to show her love for the Joker, and it doesn't do anything. Like, it literally doesn't go anywhere. They don't explain what that acid thing did to her, the chemicals did to her. It's very, very, very kind of random. You know, it didn't do anything for me. Talking about the Joker and Harley Quinn, Jared Leto as the Joker in this movie was so woefully disappointing. His part, if you haven't seen it yet, his part is basically a cameo. He's in it for about 5 minutes. He shares probably one scene with any of the other actors, maybe 2 scenes, very brief scenes with any of the other actors featured in the movie. And he really is more of an annoyance to the actual plot in the film than he has any relation to it. Honestly, the Joker doesn't even have anything to do with what happens during the film. He's just there. His whole purpose for being is to get Harley Quinn out of where she is, or get her out of that situation. And again, it's very badly done. There's really no connection between him and any of the other characters. And the way he actually finds Harley is very kind of convoluted, and it's never really explained how he knows certain people. Very, very poorly done, again, which is just such a shame because his character really has a wild look, and we get nothing from him. We get no character development from him. He's just the Joker, he's nuts, he's weird looking, and that's it. Because honestly, he was the most interesting looking thing throughout the whole movie, and he was barely in it. So very, very sad with that. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn was also another one that I really liked looking at her during this film. She's a very beautiful woman, and she's in very skimpy outfits in this film, which I think is fantastic. But sadly, her character, Harley Quinn, is not really developed very well. We just know that A, she's nuts, B, she can do acrobatic things, and C, she's good at fighting. B and C is never explained, and A is kind of barely explained. So, you know, they show Jared Leto shocking her at one point with like a defibrillator type thing, but that's it. And I guess that's how she goes crazy, but I mean, we really don't know. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions in this movie. It's actually kind of aggravating. But I didn't care about her at all. I didn't give a crap about anything she did. I thought that Margot Robbie really got Harley's kind of like demeanor and her movements and stuff right. I thought that was really fun. I think that was really funny in certain parts. But honestly, she's kind of there to deliver like one-liners, and that's basically it. Other than that, I mean, she's just really pretty. That's the most you can say about Margot Robbie, but she's really pretty in real life too. She's a very beautiful actress. I just really wish that they kind of did more with her in this. And yeah, another real disappointment there. Overall, you know, the movie has got no one to root for. Even Will Smith in this has a couple good scenes, but he's really there to just shoot people in style. That's pretty much it. He has a few funny lines. I thought the music in the movie was somewhat well done. After about the 5th to 6th song in the film, to kind of give it like atmosphere, I just kind of had it with it. I was like, man, they went way over the line with that. They really pushed it too far. Especially with the use of Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody at the end of the movie had no place in the film. I mean, literally no place in the movie. They just threw it in there because it sounded good. Really, really horrible. Really the biggest thing with the movie that I have with it, and it's a really huge problem, and it's funny because I didn't even think about it at first, but my friend said it, and he had a really good point. The bad guys that are in the film, and again, I'm not going to ruin it for you in case you do want to see it, but the bad guys in the movie, what they're doing in the film and their reason for doing what they're doing is literally never explained. And I mean that. It is literally never explained what they're doing, why they're doing it, or what the hell their purpose is. You get nothing. And so you get these bad guys that are doing this beam to the sky thing, this mystical thing in the film, and it literally goes nowhere, is never explained, and so that doesn't give us any reason for us to worry about what's happening on screen. And again, it's just this huge flaw with this movie that, for whatever reason, is just I don't know. I can't see how a movie was greenlit, made it to the theater, and we have a bad guy in the movie that is literally just doing something for no reason whatsoever. We just know that it's bad, and that's it. And I hate that. It drove me friggin' nuts after I saw this movie, and it took me 2 days of talking to somebody to say, hey, did I miss something? Is there a reason why they're doing this? And what are they doing? And everyone I talk to that has seen the movie can give me no answer. So, again, just a terrible flaw among many flaws in this film. And, you know, in the end, you just have this train wreck of a movie that is, you know, somewhat visually appealing. Some of the special effects in this movie look great. Others are really lacking, and honestly, all in all, in the end, you just get this movie that's just a total mess. I honestly think, like, I didn't see every movie that came out this summer. Like, I purposely didn't see the Ghostbusters remake. I just wasn't going to deal with that, but I've heard that that's okay, but again, I'll reserve judgment until I see it. But as for Suicide Squad, this is the most disappointing movie of the entire summer so far. It is a mess. I honestly can't recommend you go see this movie. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a 1.5 out of 5. Literally the 1.5, the 1 star is Will Smith, and the other half star is Margot Robbie. They're really the only reasons to see this movie. Other than that, it's a disaster, a real letdown, and I cannot see how David Ayer, a director and a writer of high stature, I'm saying I love this guy, could come out with a piece of garbage like this. I honestly cannot believe it. And I really hope that when this comes out on Blu-ray, we get an Ultimate Edition or a Director's Cut or something, because there's no way this movie was once in this shape. I honestly think it must have been messed with. It's over. Anyway, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. Hopefully the next review is a little bit more lighthearted, because this, man, holy shit, this one sucked. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night. God, I gotta take an Advil.